Welcome. Thank you for joining me at this swan song of Coalesce talks, as in the last one of the whole week. I'm glad you all made it. It's like party core, as I think of it. You know, party has a peak, and then at a certain hour, things are kind of settling down, but you realize who party core is. That's this group right here. You sit around, things are a little more relaxed, right? Could go on for hours. This will go on for less than 30 minutes, though. So welcome. My name's Leo. I'm a solutions engineer at Datafold. That's the last time you'll hear me say the word because this is a community talk. I want to just share with you how to use dbt Cloud and set up Slim CI. And I'll have a demo as well of not that, because I didn't really trust the Wi-Fi. So I thought I'd go a little more analog. The clicker works. All right, so I can look here and talk, getting used to this. All right, so I'll walk through a little bit about how this talk is going to go. Who am I? Touched on that, so that won't take long. Building models in CI. What does that mean? What is CI? And not breaking stuff in production. Does CI scale? Yes, there's something for that. It's called Slim CI. We'll get there. Hands-on keyboard. It's actually just going to be hands-on this DeWalt power tool for the aforementioned reasons. What to do if you're working in multiple environments. How can you kind of layer what I'm going to walk through on top of itself, on top of itself, on top of itself, if you're really, really big. And then I'll walk through some home projects I've done, which have involved drilling pilot holes. And thanks for joining. I'm going to start with why I use dbt. Some of you might know the famous tweet about how an analytics engineer is really just a pissed off data analyst. And that was my situation in life when I discovered dbt in analytics engineering. I wanted my data code to be reliable, version controlled, efficient, understandable. I wanted to do a good job. I wanted the numbers to not be changing for reasons I didn't understand, I couldn't stand behind. So dbt really helped me get there. What I don't want to do is over-engineer a process to try to solve a problem that just creates another problem. I don't want to go back to the before times when I would discover problems in production and not be able to explain them, or even if I could, it's kind of too late. So I want my CI process, and I'm going to define that in just one moment, but I'll finish my sentence. I want my CI process to be just right, and I have here a picture of the three bears. You might be familiar with the tale. I'm going to pause, interrupt myself, and comment on what is CI, right? CI stands for continuous integration. Actually, I'm so sorry. I have a slide that explains that, so I'm not going to interrupt myself. Let's just keep going. Trust the slides. There are not easy trade-offs in any of this, right? You have to have a balance of efficiency, speed, ability to ship, but also stability. So if a mistake in production is going to put you out of business, then you should probably move more slowly. If you're a startup that's trying to get stuff done and continue to exist, then you might be able to sacrifice some rigor for speed, right? So there's not a simple answer, and it's often can be a challenging trade-off to figure out how to make sure your dbt project on your next production run does not go kaput. So building models in CI. We'll talk a little bit more about CI, what it is, and how not to break stuff in production. By the way, has anyone ever had a dbt model not build in production? Your production dbt run fails. It's okay if no one raises your hand, but I'm just kind of, okay, right? So for those of you watching online, there's like 4,500 people here. Oh my gosh, I'm just kidding. About half the room, maybe more, raise their hands. So that's validating that this is something that we've all experienced on some level and are trying to fix. So here's that slide I promised. What is CI? So I've gotten a lot of different explanations of CI. Stands for continuous integration. It often means something different to different people and in different contexts. But for our purposes, it's the stuff that happens automatically when you open a pull request in GitHub. So you might have stuff that happens automatically, so to speak, on your production runs, but what we're focused on any automatic check you might have, like SQL syntax checking, that sort of thing that runs when you open or add to a pull request. And then you see check, 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 and then you are good to go. So that's CI. And you can see a little screenshot on the bottom, which is kind of the vision I'm trying to paint here. The goal is to build a PR version of your DBT models. So you have Codebase, right, which is your main DBT project. And then you have a completely separate, in a way, Codebase, which is on the feature branch. And what we want to do is make sure that that is going to run successfully. We run it in CI. You might be thinking to yourself, that seems like a lot of DBT building to be doing every time I add to my pull request. We'll talk about how to avoid building the entire project, because that would be time consuming and you don't need to do it. And this is just a little bit more, I'm just going to snow you with all these definitions of CI. Really depends on who you ask. I even asked ChatGPT, got a still further different definition. So we're just going to go with mine for now. All right, so one of my favorite features of DBT Cloud is the fact that you can set up a CI job that runs when you add to a pull request, when you push a commit. It just makes sense. It's very easy to set up. I'm going to show you two screenshots. There's really not much to say. You just say create a job, and then suddenly when you open a pull request, DBT Cloud kicks off with a PR run. And I'll show you a little bit about what that looks like. But this number, I don't have the exact numbers. This was cited a couple years ago. I know it's like kind of ballpark, right? It really surprised me when I learned that this was not happening across the board. I will say that in my day job, I talk to a lot of people who want to talk to me at my day job, but they don't have CI set up. So I kind of know from just like pounding the pavement that it is not a common practice, even though it's so easy. The real goal here, I hope you walk out of this room, if you don't have CI set up, or out of this online space, if you don't have CI set up, just doing it. You can probably do it later today, at least on a toy project, if you aren't going to obviously touch your big company's project. But hopefully you can get comfortable enough that this doesn't feel like it's intimidating. Pilot holes. So you might at some point need to drill into a 2x4. That 2x4 might be underneath some drywall, or somewhere where you can't really see what's going on. You might miss it. You might hit a wire. You might do a lot of things that you can't undo. And furthermore, if you don't have a pilot hole, you might crack the whole thing. And that's what you can see right there. So there's a few reasons to drill pilot holes before you go to town on the wall of your house or your apartment. And I'm going to try to illustrate how there are some similarities here. Why would you drill a pilot hole? This is going to start to feel repetitive because I already kind of talked through why you would build PR models in CI. You don't want to damage wire. You don't want to basically break something that you can't unbreak when you can't really see what's going on, right? So by running your entire DBT project, or the relevant part of it, in your pull request, you will know what's going to happen when it hits production. In the same way, a little pilot hole, you can easily plug it up if you find something unsavory that you don't want to actually drill an entire wood screw into. You can adjust something before you really ship the change you're about to make. Does that kind of, you see what I'm trying to put down? Okay. All right, does it scale? I touched on this a little bit. Like the very basics here is you can automatically, using DBT Cloud, build the version of the DBT models that you want to ship in CI, which means in your pull request. Slim CI makes this really scalable, and I'll talk about why. Do you need to rebuild your entire project? No. You can build only the models, so only the tables that you are modifying, or the downstreams. Teams have all sorts of way of specifying exactly what they build in CI, but that's a common practice, and it's a really easy way to get started, and then you can kind of refine it from there. So the idea is your CI runs are faster, your warehouse costs are lower, you don't build models unnecessarily, and you get the information you need to feel confident that you're not about to poke a hole in a wire behind your wall. How is it possible? The truth is, it's very kind of like, you can just kind of click a button and do it, but there is some stuff that's happening behind the scenes. So DBT and DBT Cloud behind the scenes is taking your two manifest JSON files, comparing them, finding what's different, finding what's downstream. So you kind of just have to allow it to do that, or like agree to do that, and then suddenly you have Slim CI set up. But there is some interesting mechanics behind that. I know we have some cloud core engineers in the audience, so I'll point you to them after if you have questions about exactly what's going on there. But the idea is that it should just be out of the box. And so it's not necessary to build any upstream models at all. That's the other thing I want to touch on. So what is deferral? I'll get into a little more detail, but this didn't click for me for a while. Like, I was using Slim CI for a while, and I was like, yeah, we're deferring to production. Well, what is deferring to production? That is kind of an interesting detail that I do think it's worth understanding, just so that you don't set this up out of the box and then just not really know what's going on as you aim to evolve your configuration. You might want to start to get into a little more detail. So we'll touch on deferral right now. So this is how when I'm talking to someone who's never used CI before, I want to make sure they understand. This is kind of meta. We're looking at a git diff between what happens in a full DBT build versus a Slim CI build, right? So I'm assuming now you're like convinced you need to build DBT models in your pull request, I hope. But what does it mean to use Slim CI? So let's say this is the model that you are updating. Let's see here. So on the left, you can basically see that all of the selects, or all of the froms in this SQL are referring to the PR num123 schema, right? So let's say you've updated this model. Let's say it's called dimorgs. Dimorgs is now selecting from something upstream, PR num123 signed in. The problem here, of course, is that in order for the left-hand side to happen, you have to build all those upstreams in CI, right? You have to build your entire DBT project. On the right-hand side, you can see, because dimorgs in this example, this simple example, is the only model that's modified in the pull request, you can actually select from your production data. So I think that's pretty cool. This is not like a brand new feature of DBT Cloud that I'm evangelizing. This is something that's like very much part of, well, I don't know the history of it, but my point is it's not new. It's just something that a lot of people maybe haven't noticed, maybe haven't kind of seen the guts of it, and I know for a fact a lot of people haven't actually done, right? So there's a very simple kind of version of a DBT build command, just a couple words that you add after build that enables you to do this in DBT Cloud out of the box. So I added some thought bubbles. So you can see that first line is deferring to production. So it's just selecting directly from production. The other lines are deferring to upstream tables that were built in the PR run. So you can kind of see how this deferral process is smart enough to only build upstreams when necessary. All right. So we've got dimorgs. This is going to be like a very short pop quiz. But just to begin some audience participation. I'm sure there'll be heckling later as I get into my live demo. If dimorgs is the only table that's updated in the pull request, then what would be built in your Slim CI build? So would dimorgs be built? You can say dimorgs. Now, it actually depends. I'm assuming you're going to build the downstreams as well. You could be like super slim and only build dimorgs, right? You could build nothing, right? You could build everything. A very common practice is to build the modified models and the downstreams. So you build dimorgs, you build all those downstreams. The exciting thing here is that you're selecting from the upstreams that already exist. And now I'm going to drill a pilot hole. So let's see how we're doing on timing. Perfect timing. All right. So this is a 2x4. Does anyone know why it's called a 2x4? Yeah, I don't really know either. I think it's 4 inches by 2 inches, but like anything you can get at the hardware store, that's inaccurate. Oh, Grace, please.
That's the
the dimensions it had. Oh, so it starts as a 2x4, and then it gets a little smaller when it becomes this like uniform size. Well, it makes perfect sense that it's called a 2x4, then not confusing at all. All right, so basically the idea here is that I've got these rather thick wood screws that I think will split this wood if I drill into it. Make sense? What have I forgotten? What am I missing right now? Safety, eye protection. All right. Feel very safe. I promised the sponsors of this event there would be no blades, but there are power tools. Thank you. And best of luck to my mic cord. I think I'll just use arms. All right. So I've got my C-clamp. Do you want to come give this a shake? Okay. I got a no. All right. So I think this is just going to split, but we'll find out together. All right. So it didn't like fly to pieces, but what do you think? Grace, you seem to know something about 2x4s.
Yeah, it's not looking good there.
Why don't we pass this around? There you go. All right. So you can all inspect that. That's kind of like what it looks like if you don't have Slim CI set up. All right. Now's the fun part. By the way, you might be wondering, how did I get all this equipment to this event? And the answer is I checked a bag. All right. So, and they said, are there any lithium batteries? And I was like, I'm not really sure. All right, good. All right, so I checked the bag, but I forgot at home a couple things, which were the wood screws I planned to use, as well as my drill bits. So I had to make a trip to Ace Hardware this morning. And why is everyone laughing? And that was really fortunate, actually, because I did some test work at home, and I couldn't really get the wood to split. And the reason is because I had like ordinary wood screws, not like these big honking wood screws that you see here. Oh, you already have one. I was about to pass it around, but you got it. And so at Ace, I went in and I said, I need to do like the opposite of what I should be doing, right? I want to split wood. I want to make sure that I can, really wreck this 2x4 that and I said, it's for business reasons. And so they equipped me with this really cool thing, which, you're welcome to come up and take a look later. It's got like a hexagon that hooks onto this. I guess it's kind of magnetic. Anyway, they got me everything I need to do a really terrible job of installing a wood screw in a 2x4. Now this is a pilot hole. So there's a little bit of shaving that came off but I think this is very superficial, but I don't want there to be any doubts about, the merits and importance of using CI in using Slim CI in your DBT development process. So you can inspect that. And, I brought a couple extras so we can try this again. So now that I've drilled a nice pilot hole, this should be very smooth. I think it might just fall right in, actually. I don't even know if I need the drill. Just kidding, that's ridiculous. All right. So let's do this. All right. So I'm going to pass this around as well for your inspection. Let's do this. What do you think?
Super clean.
You want to pass it around?
Sure.
It's safe to touch. Okay. All right. That was actually a lot less noisy and messy than I was expecting. So yeah, we can we can continue playing with power tools after the talk if you want. All right. So I think we're good to go and zip through a couple final points here. Yes, the DBT Cloud UI. So this is very simple to do. It's almost, if I have one criticism, it's almost so simple that you might not realize what's happening behind the scenes, which is why I did want to touch on that. safe now, so I can take these off. But really all you have to do is select a environment to defer to. So you can see here we're deferring to the production environment. Cool thing about that is that you might have multiple production jobs that use that one environment, and so whatever was the most recent build is what will be used in that kind of upstream select. That's I believe, a super new feature, actually. You used to need to select a specific job, but a lot of people do have multiple production jobs. Let's see, what else is here? Description, that's completely optional. Triggered by pull requests, that is the toggle that you press. Again, it's like so simple. You just create a job, select pull request job, and that's it. The command, I suggest starting with this. Everything happens behind the scenes, but you dbt build and then select the modified models and downstreams. There are so many other ways of, you could say, I only want to build one level downstream. I want to build only the modified, but nothing downstream. You could build the modifieds and then nothing downstream, except for the ones that are for downstream. It's endless, so you can explore that. But I would definitely start with this. Defer to production. And then that is really, truly it. And then this is, as some of you know, but perhaps not all of you, what it will look like in your GitHub or GitLab pull request. That little check appears at the bottom saying dbt cloud run success. If you click on details, you can see exactly what was built. If it fails, you click on details, you can see exactly what failed. You haven't merged your pull request, and you can have more confidence when you actually approve it. That was supposed to be me doing the demo. Yeah. So, all right. Just a quick comment on scaling beyond, like SlimCI is built for scale. If this looks familiar to you, you might be thinking, what about when I'm merging feature into UAT, into staging, into production, into production underscore actual production, whatever it may be. You can basically set this up for any branch that merges into any other branch that is like a persistent branch, if you will, right? And the diagram kind of shows you what that might look like. So all those purple circles with that say PR, well, there's 3 on the QA branch right there, right? So you would only need one job, one dbt cloud CI job to get that. Sorry, this is my blood sugar. It's just because I'm excited, honestly. You should see when I play baseball. It goes through the roof. There's nothing I can do about it, right? Because I can't, yeah. So where were we? SlimCI is just incredibly exciting topic to me. So yeah, you only need one dbt cloud job for all of those on the blue line, but you would need another one for the green line, right? So that's just something to think about, but it does add a lot of complexity to kind of manage multiple jobs. Going back to what I said at the beginning, only do it if you really, really need that level of layered complexity, but it is kind of infinitely scalable in that respect. And I have included some pictures of things I did at home. Some garden boxes and that workbench. You might even recognize some tools that are cluttered around that workbench on this table in front of you. But yeah, building the workbench was pretty fun, and managed not to split any wood in the process. And that's it. So thank you for joining. I would love to answer any questions if there are questions. If you feel inspired to ask a question in front of other people, now would be the time to do that. And we've got one in the back. Faith, what's up?
How long did it take you to build the garden boxes? And did you put them right on the ground, or did you elevate them?
So I have a 1.5-year-old, and so everything takes a long time. The boxes themselves were pretty easy to put together. Just assembling the boxes was not the hard part. The hard part was leveling them, honestly. They are on the ground. See how it's kind of tiered down there on the bottom left? I think of it as like a choir. So that front yard, I wish I had an updated picture. Maybe I'll share it in a channel, but now it has there's actual plants in them. There's bark mulch. but the leveling is tricky. I had to borrow a neighbor's, like 6-foot long level. And then I also had to decide it was good enough at a certain point. The mulch there is mulch on the bottom, and then there's nature's best soil in it, and then more mulch on the top. And then mulch all around. I had to dig up all the grass as well. Any other questions about my front yard or DBT Cloud? So far, it's only been one at a time. But if we wanted to get a group together, but it's full of vegetables now. And so then I think they would maybe, first of all, I won't be able to fit as many DBAs now that it's full of nature's best soil and little carrot seedlings. And furthermore, I think they would squish the carrot seedlings. And so I'm reluctant to, try that out. Yes, please.
Yeah, is there a way to limit how far down the DBT project you want it to test?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I appreciate all the serious questions. I think what you're referring to is, if we go back a couple slides, let's see. A few more. I'm lost. Anyway, let's say, I want to show you this one. Yeah, here we are. Thanks. So see that command section? So if you were to add, for example, see how it's modified plus? So that will build everything from the modified model and downstream. If you add just a 1 after the plus, it'll build only the modified models and 1 layer downstream. So, or 2 or 3, you can get really complicated with it. But you can do pretty much anything. It just, this is a good place to, kick the tires or try it out if you're just starting. You could also do something more conservative, if you will, and just DBT build, select state modified, no downstreams, right? If you are hesitant about adding a lot more runtime to your CI. If you wanted to be really careful, you could DBT build just sort of anything arbitrary. You could build a single model in CI just to validate that it's happening. So those are some ways to just get comfortable before you turn the lights on fully. I love that last question so much that blood sugar's going up again. It's weird. It's it had nothing to do with what I ate. This is getting very personal. I don't even know how to turn that thing off. I probably shouldn't. Any other questions for the group? People do benefit from if you're brave enough to ask a question in front of everyone else. But we can also chat more. Yes, right there.
That woodworking looked really sexy. Do you have any advice on where to start with woodworking? I just bought a house 2 months ago, and I'm looking for some woodworking.
Woodworking, yeah. So I wish I had a picture of the ping pong table I built about 10 years ago out of supplies I bought from Home Depot. Actually, the table came out okay, but I wish I had a picture of myself sitting on the floor trying to screw a wood screw into a 2x4 with a screwdriver. And I was supporting the wood screw I was sort of sitting cross-legged and holding it with my feet so that I could hold it down with my other hand. And so I definitely recommend, you got to have the right tools for the job, as everyone at this conference, understands well. And I think that you should start with a kit, and something that is, where you're getting the experience of holding something with a C-clamp, drilling a pilot hole, attaching something to something else. But yeah, it's a fun journey. I'm no expert at all, but it's fun and practical. All right, thanks all for coming, and feel free to come up and chat more.